Hi everyone, I'm Parisa. I'm from Anand, a small town in Gujarat. If you don't know what Anand is, it is basically the milk city of India. Can I have my presentation, please? Okay. A big thank you to Dr. Batra and his team for giving me the opportunity to talk about my art journey. I want to take this opportunity to talk about art and us and why art is so important in our society. Before I begin talking about that though, I would like all of you to imagine a simple pencil drawing that you might have made of a nature scene. So in your mind, just imagine you have a blank piece of paper, a pencil, and something that you might have made when given the prompt of nature. All right, are you ready? Chances are that most of us imagined something like this. Despite not having the exact same childhood, we thought about the same thing. And this is the power of art. It is what connects us, regardless of our background, our age, our gender. I hold the belief that the most important and groundbreaking inventions throughout human history have arisen from and served the cause of art. Fire was invented so that human beings could sit around in caves to tell stories to their children. 30,000 years ago, our Homo sapien forefathers were painting on the walls of the Chauvet caves in southern France. Chinese monks developed block printing to set ink into paper using wooden blocks. 600 years later, the printing press was developed. Technology contributed to the creation of photography, motion pictures, telephones, radios, TV, digital media, and now AI. Though the mediums have changed over time, the importance of art has never wavered. Ved Vyas in the ancient times faced the challenge to disseminate and preserve ancient scriptures. So he composed the epic poem of Mahabharata. Think of a fossil. It's not just a stone, it's not the animal. It is actually the stone's memory of the bones of the animal. Art has this transformative power to be a timeless vessel of wisdom and culture. Art is not just a luxury, it's not just sustenance. We need this. We need these weaving narratives to teach, communicate, and connect across cultures, civilization, and even eras. History is not as static as we think. Stories can be told, retold, read, and reread. A change of context, a change of perspective, hindsight can assign different values to everything and everyone around us. And this is why artists and storytellers are so important. They present meta documentations of our history. They give villains their origin stories and heroes their victories. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race. And the human race is filled with immense passion. Law, business, entrepreneurship, medicine, they are all noble pursuits. But art is what we live for at the end of the day. Oh. Now that I've convinced you why art is so important, let's delve into my own journey with art. The world around us is filled with unimaginable number of stories and art. We just need to open our eyes. And look, children for that matter are the most creative people you'll ever meet. The question is, why are children more creative than adults? And I'm qualified to say this because I'm turning 18 tomorrow, so I'd say I'm right on the precipice. Most kids, don't have full-time jobs, they don't have chores to do, they don't have bills to pay, and they have less time pressure. But also, they have less constraints on reality. Children do more divergent thinking. They use imagination to create choices. Whereas adults, they do more convergent thinking. They use logic to make choices. This is how my journey began. My first memory ever is of painting with my dad. And then in kindergarten and primary school, the first thing we were ever taught to do was draw and paint. We didn't learn the alphabet. We learned how to imagine and then create. And this funda has stayed with me throughout my life. And then as I grew older, dance and crafts, music, art, they all just became optional subjects. And we were given portfolios, assignments, and all that sort of stuff. And most of my peers, they just did, basic projects to the point, just to get the passing grade and move on. Whereas me, being a perfectionist and an overachiever, I tried to make the most elaborate, out-of-the-box projects I could even think of, and I did them. And at some point, I realized that, oh, I just like this art stuff without all the academic fluff. When it came to deciding which stream to take after 10th, I took up science only because I used to hate art classes. What is the point of drawing 50 circles if you don't even know how to make that circle into something else? I'm grateful to have such amazing parents who push me to be the best that I could ever be, who support me relentlessly. Here is how my art has progressed. I tried out different mediums and different techniques. I used to follow YouTube videos and I used to mimic every single brushstroke they used to do to understand how the masters did it. And that's also how I became consistent. I explored so much. I did collages, I used poster paints, watercolor, acrylic paints, oil paints, mixed media, and even Rubik's Cubes, which you will see later on. I could never completely solve a Rubik's Cube, but hey, at least I can make a portrait out of them. In COVID, I discovered digital art, which was a complete game changer for me. It meant that I could create anywhere at any time. I'd like to explain some of my thoughts behind my artwork. This artwork is called Faces, and I created it during Women's History Month. It has 154 faces that I made purely from imagination, so no references, nothing, just what I have observed in the world, and I put it down on paper. It's a large piece, and it consists of women from all across the globe. Next is acrylic painting, which have a similar theme, but they are quite different. The first 3 circles you see, they talk about the process of heartbreak and how it is not linear. If you look from the top to bottom or from the bottom to top, they tell a different story. The second one is a painting inspired by Michelangelo's painting called Creation of Adam. And it talks about how humans have an innate need to connect. These are some of my digital paintings. The first set here is a set of 25 digital artworks, and it's titled Masquerade. So the idea behind this title is that we as humans wear masks. It isn't a bad thing that we wear masks. It's a good thing. It means that we have this ability, like of a chameleon, to develop and change with the events that we, face. The second set of paintings here is those two are part of my series called Garden of Eden, where I have women in peaceful places away from all the things that might trouble them. And it is a peaceful surrounding, like heaven, which is what Garden of Eden is related to. In October of this year, I held my first ever solo art exhibition. I always had a deep-rooted desire to show my artwork to the world. I was advised to do the same by my friends and family. I come from Anand, which is a relatively small town, and there were no art galleries there, so I wished to take my work to either of the bigger cities of Ahmedabad or Vadodara. Fortunately, I was accepted by an art gallery in Ahmedabad, which is right near M.F. Hussein's and B.V. Doshi's Ahmedabadni Gufa, which was a major achievement for me because location matters a lot in the art world. And for a newbie like me to get into that kind of situation, it was life-changing for me. I learned a lot with that experience. And out of the hundreds of people I talked to, at least 3 in 4 told me that they either themselves had an innate interest in some kind in art or knew someone else. By art, I mean any kind of art, dance, music, anything. But, they refrained from creating because they thought they were not as good, or they used to do it when they were younger, but now they don't have time. And this baffled me so much. If so many people are interested in art, why are so many so hesitant to create? Theoretically, it will take you less time to pick up a pen and paper and create something than it would to just start complaining and end your reasonings for not creating. Which brings me to what I talked about before. As we get older, we get trained to use our time productively. If we are putting some effort into something, we should get some compensation in return, be it through money or some kind of validation. In this way, creative tasks get put on the back burner. Here are some of the glimpses of my art exhibition. I got to talk to a lot of people and I learned a lot from them. I even got to talk to some eminent professors in art, some eminent collectors as well. Now I'm going to be talking about the significance of creativity. Most people have this internal dialogue that why create something if it isn't going to be good? But art isn't about being good or bad. It's about the insanely cathartic process of getting to that end result. Someone right here could be the next Van Gogh, and we might never know because you are too afraid to pick up a paintbrush. In art, the art that you make should be for yourself. It should be an expression of you. And then it can be for others only if you want it to be. To imagine something in your mind and then creating it and holding it within your hands is a joy only a few people get to experience. And when you are an artist, you get to experience that every single day. Now, I want you all to think of something when you hear the word spring. So what do you think of when you hear the word spring? Most of you thought of either of these 3 things: the season of spring, the metal helical coil, or an underground water source that wells up. We use art as a medium to share these unique perspectives. A same word could differentiate people into 3 different categories, and maybe more. I know there are a lot of definitions of the word spring. But art has helped us from centuries to conjure up our unique perspectives. During the Pandavas' exile in the forest, Arjun felt disheartened, and in the search of guidance, he met the divine saint Chitrasen, who was a talented dancer and musician. With the help of Chitrasen's guidance, Arjun discovered a new perspective on life, finding solace and inspiration. Art is this. It helps us find solace in dark times. I have traveled to over 25 countries and experienced so many cultures, art forms along the way, from Chinese temples to the Louvre in Paris. These varied perspectives have helped me imbue and interview different cultures and ideas into my art. And that's what art is to me, the ability to share my perspective and comprehension of the world I live in. The stark reality is that most of us would be forgotten by the end of this century. But as humans, we have this deep primal need to persist. We leave handprints on the wall, scratch our names into stones, carve initials into tree, mark our growth as children on walls. We write in the margins of books. We hide notes behind wallpapers. And with art, we can persist. Imagine a world where art didn't exist. You can't write, or maybe you can. But let me tell you, to imagine, it is the trait of an artist herself. And I would like to end with this quote. Art isn't in the tools, it isn't in the materials or equipments. It's in the way you see the world. Thank you.